Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Day 23 Ancient Fuelweaver speedrun. I want to say I'm satisfied with this run, even though I didn't play as well as I could have. That being said, I don't plan on attempting to beat this record anytime soon. With that in mind, I am more than comfortable putting a lot of time making sure this video is informative and detailed enough for anyone who possibly wants to try out this run for themselves, or just wants to get better at preparing for and killing the Ancient Fuelweaver. Now before we get started, one thing to understand is that I have attempted this run on multiple occasions, and largely what differentiates a Day 25 kill versus a Day 24 or lower kill is RNG, which, if you don't know, stands for Random Number Generator, and is the primary force that decides what your random generated world will look like. It determines things like how many Mactus camps will spawn in your world, where the runes are located, and other important factors. That being said, I got very good RNG this run, and I mean very, very good RNG. So while this is a perfect showcase of what to expect if everything goes right, don't expect to get this kind of RNG unless you attempt the run many times. Now, getting into the run itself, the Ancient Fuelweaver is what we are after. We know where he is, or rather, where he should be. To clarify, the fight takes place on a location in the caves named the Atrium. The Atrium is most similar to the runes, which are also located in the caves. The Atrium is typically pretty close to the runes as well, so it makes sense that they are themed similarly. We can find the Atrium easy enough, as there are two primary ways of locating the Atrium. The first is the intended way, which consists of finding these giant tentacle spikes underground, smacking them until they yield, and hopping down their big slimy pits. There are a total of 12, and every single one is connected to another one, similar to the wormholes of the overworld. However, one of them leads you to the Atrium, so it's just a matter of finding and jumping down them until you find the right one. The second way to find the Atrium is to walk along the edges of the runes in an attempt to spot them, as typically the Atrium spawns rather close to the runes. However, just because it's close doesn't make it accessible, because it's still separated by the void, which you can't traverse. However, there is a way to jump over the void using an item called the Lazy Explorer, which allows you to telepoof a short distance to your cursor. Finding the correct tentacle takes up a lot of valuable time, so typically I like telepoofing over, but that requires the Atrium to spawn close enough to the runes to see, and also requires a Lazy Explorer to get there. Once inside the Atrium, you will be faced with depth dwellers along with broken clockworks, and your progression will constantly be halted by insanity or sanity obelisks, which will not allow passage unless you are insane or sane respectively. Which means you need a way to quickly swap between the two states, or, again, if you have a Lazy Explorer, you can just telepoof around them, saving you the trouble. At the end of the Atrium, you find the Ancient Gateway, and this is where you fight the Ancient Fuelweaver. But there is only one small issue. He's not there. Nope. In fact, you have to bring him there. Not only that, but you also have to give him life. But just giving him life still isn't enough, because the Ancient Gateway must be activated before he will reanimate into his true form. And to activate it, you need the Ancient Key, which the Ancient Guardian is protecting in the runes. And that's not even the worst part, because you still have to get his fossils and his heart. His bones can be collected from the stalagmites in the caves. Each one you mine has a 10% chance of dropping a single piece, and you need a total of 8 of them. With a pretty low drop rate, getting all 8 can take a while. Thankfully, stalagmites, which are these rocky spider dens, can be mined and have a guaranteed drop of 1 fossil each, and even a chance to drop 2. So that's simple enough. What about the heart? Well, the correct term for the heart is the Shadow Atrium, and this piece to the puzzle is a little confusing. In order to get the Shadow Atrium, you must fight and kill a Tier 3 Shadow chest piece, which can only be transformed into the Tier 3 form after a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 Shadow chest piece have died in its vicinity. But to even get them to spawn in the first place, you must find a set piece of 3 marble statues. Then you must repair these statues with their respective suspicious marble headpieces, which are scattered around the world. And then you have to wait for a new moon, which only occurs every 20 days, mine the statues, and then fight and defeat all 3, which puts a soft cap on the run of Day 21. Okay, so once I get all 8 fossils, the Ancient Key, the Shadow Atrium, and find the Ancient Gateway, then I can fight the Ancient Fuelweaver. Yes, you can. But we haven't even gotten to the resources you actually need to win the fight against the Ancient Fuelweaver. The Ancient Fuelweaver is a complicated boss, far more detailed than any other boss in the Don't Starve Together universe. He himself only has 16,000 HP, which is less than most, and has an easily dodgeable primary attack, which means you can avoid taking unwanted hits easily. But that's about where the simplicity of the fight ends, as he also has an insanity aura of minus 400 per minute and can also trap you in a cage of bones, which is inescapable unless you hug the edge of the arena while he activates the attack, or have a lazy explorer to telepoof yourself out. In addition, the Ancient Fuelweaver also has a series of priority moves that he will use whenever available to him during his second phase. The first is spawning in 6 Shadow Hands that grant the Ancient Fuelweaver an indestructible shield blocking all damage dealt to him while active. And the other is spawning in a small army of woven shadows which will slowly crawl their way to the Ancient Fuelweaver to be consumed up to 3 at a time, healing 100 hit points each. Now, taking care of both the woven shadows and the shadow hands in addition to dealing with the Fuelweaver himself is where the real challenge lies. In order to disable his shield, all 6 of the shadow hands must be removed. They only take 1 hit to destroy, only they can't be hit by any sane player, which means you need to be insane. Now, with an active aura of minus 400 sanity per minute, being insane won't be too hard to achieve. The only issue with being insane the whole fight is, in addition to the inevitable nightmare creatures that will spawn, the Fuelweaver has a mind-controlling ability to immobilize and stun any insane player for 10 seconds, which is bad, if you couldn't tell. Like, really, really bad. Once you are comfortable with these 2 mechanics, you now have to deal with the woven shadows, which you can't allow to reach the Fuelweaver. They spawn all around the arena, which means if you don't want him getting free heals, you need to keep him in one corner of the arena to increase the amount of time it takes for the woven shadows to reach the Fuelweaver, giving you time to dispatch them. I understand it's a lot of mechanics to comprehend, let alone be comfortable with, so in order to deal with them, we are also going to need some pseudoscience and shadow manipulator gear, namely a lazy explorer to telepoof out of his bone cages, a nightmare amulet to pass between sanity states at will, some dark swords to kill the guy, Thulecite crowns to survive the 100 unarmored damage he deals per hit, and healing/sanity regenerating foods to stay healthy during the fight. The longer the fight goes, the more sanity regen you need, so killing him quickly is key. Also, having Starcaller's staff and a Magiluminescence make the fight much more feasible. However, all this gear is rather advanced and requires its own steps to create, adding even more hoops to jump through to successfully complete an Ancient Fuelweaver speedrun, let alone do it fast. So as we get into the video, I will pop in every now and then to highlight interesting things that occur in this run, and also to keep you up to date with the checklist I have in my head for what I need to be working towards next. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the run. So right off the bat, I am including the creation of my world just to put any skeptics' minds at ease. Also, I am going to be popping up a little side tab every once in a while to kind of update you guys on kind of the list that's in my head and what's going on. Real quick though, it's going to look like this, and this, for example, is showing you kind of what I need to take care of above ground. I need to find 3 red gems and 3 blue gems to make 3 purple gems to fulfill my need for the purple gem for the dark, or not the dark, but the shadow manipulator and the nightmare amulet. Obviously, I need to find the 3 suspicious marble pieces and the set piece that they go to. Pig King I like finding early on. It's pretty much guaranteed gold, boards, cut stone, and a lot of pig skin, which helps you get your alchemy engine up and running, helps you get handbats on deck, and helps you get football helmets, which basically, once you get those things, are your early game set. I'm going to need to locate the cactus. Don't need to gather it anytime soon, just so that I know where it is for when I want to gather it for the fight itself. The Lazy Explorer requires a McTusk camp because I need a walking cane to craft it, so I also need to find that. I need to find beefalo because they're good for food, obviously. For Wolfgang, that's very helpful, but also because I need to be able to make a saddle in order to gather all 3 of the suspicious marbles to bring them where they need to go. And then I need to find at least 2 totally normal trees in order to craft the Starcaller's staff and also the shadow manipulator, with 1 left over for 1 extra dark sword in addition to the one you get from killing the shadow chest pieces in order to kill the Ancient Fuelweaver. So as you'll notice, I'm just doing exactly what you would do probably at the start of a world, not filling up my inventory with useless items, and all those things I mentioned earlier I'm on the lookout for. The reason I end up finding the Pig King first usually is because of the cobble road that usually leads to the Pig King is pretty simple to locate oftentimes in worlds, and if I do locate it, I usually just follow it to its conclusion so I can get my alchemy engine up and running. One thing to note right off the bat, as you are collecting your early game grass and twigs and seeing what kind of berries you have, it's good to kind of note what your world gen is. So based on the amount of saplings and grass and the fact that there's normal berries, I can determine that this is not a twiggy tree world, this is not a grass gecko world, and this is not a juicy berry world. So it's standard across those three. And it's just good to keep that in mind. If it were a twiggy tree world, twigs would be very difficult to get early on, but around day 10 they'd start becoming very plentiful. On a run like this, I definitely prefer saplings to twiggy trees, but generally if I'm just playing to go the distance, I think twiggy trees are better. Grass geckos I hate because you need a lot of grass early, and although grass geckos give you a ton of grass when you do find them, it can sometimes be really obnoxious to locate them, and then obviously the fact that I get no juicy berries makes me sad, but that's life. Now here also you'll see I hopped in a wormhole and found the deciduous biome. Deciduous often has Pig King in it, unless it's a fake deciduous, but I won't go into too much detail about that. So I generally am going to want to check out wormholes whenever I come across them. It's good to kind of take mental note as to where your shortcuts are around the map if you need to go back and forth to different locations. But I'm going to go ahead and check out this deciduous to see if I can get the Pig King. Fortunately, I also found a rock biome, which means plenty of golden boulders. I'm going to need quite a lot of gold this run for opulent tools, a saddle, alchemy engine, science machine, and things like that. So I'm stocking up here real quick just to get my hands on a good starting amount. Another thing to note is, as Wolfgang, I generally won't pick berries. There's usually a plethora of food available in the starting biomes, but since I didn't pick up too many carrots and butterflies before wormholing out, I want to pick these up, especially because I'm expecting to find the Pig King here, in which case I want enough food to get mighty in order to kill the pigs. So it's a pretty sweet deal. I found Pig King really early on, day 1. Can't ask for a sooner day to find Pig King, obviously. It's dusk right now, which is a perfect opportunity to kill the pigs because they'll all be inside their house. You still have light to fight them with. So they have a ton of berries over here. I'm just going to grab them all real quick to go mighty off of. That's why I stopped hammering those 2 pig heads, because I wanted to go ahead and get these guys killed while it was still dusk, because fighting them during the day, they'll all gang up on you, and it just takes longer. So if you can, try and fight pigs during dusk. So I found the Pig King early, chopped his houses down, and got myself an alchemy engine pre-built, along with the necessary resources to make all sorts of things, including a ham bat and a football helmet. So once I find the set piece to collect all the suspicious marbles, I will probably set my alchemy engine up there, as I like to set it up someplace I want to return to often. Usually I like to check the deciduous for it, because World Gen often has the chest set piece spawn in there. So this is a list of the things that I'm going to need while I'm underground. Obviously right now I'm just hopping down each sinkhole I see just to kind of get a general idea of how the map looks underground, and kind of so I can triangulate where the runes will be. But any giant tentacle I see, I will probably go ahead and check if I'm down there and near close enough to it. I also need to locate the blue mushroom forest, because I need a lot of blue mushrooms before I go into the runes themselves. The red mush forest, because that's where I'm going to be getting all of my fossils. And then obviously when I do eventually find the runes, I'm going to need to locate 2 orange gems, 3 yellow gems, and a bunch of thulecite, in addition to a pseudoscience machine. Alright, sweet deal. Found our first suspicious marble. This one's a bishop, which is helpful. This means I need to find rook and a knight afterwards. I like to make a trap to mark the location of the marble heads as I find them, just so I don't have to mentally remember where they are, because they have no marker for themselves. If I find a bishop head that's closer to a set piece, a chest set piece, which is where I have to deliver them with the beefalo, I'll probably forego grabbing this one. But just knowing where any of them are is helpful. I don't really need gears this run, so any clockworks that I find above ground, I'm pretty much just going to leave them alone, because they'll be a waste of time to kill, because I'm not going to be making an ice chest or ice box at any time in this run. Normally I would be killing everyone I see if I was just trying to set up a base, but in this case, don't need them. I'm going to need a bit of silk this run to make a top hat and a bug net to make a miner's hat, because you need fireflies to do that. So any spider dens that I see, I'll just stop by real quick and kill them until I get around 10 silk. Any gravestones I see along my path, I'm going to want to dig up, just in case they have a red or blue gem inside, because I'm going to need 3 of each. If I do happen to find the graveyard near the mosaic, though, that usually has enough red and blue gems to fulfill my needs, but any gravestone I see along the path, I'm going to want to dig up just in case. So I actually didn't know with this Ice Hound situation if I needed the ice stuff or not. This early on in the run, obviously I'm just going to leave it because the Ice Hounds are going to cause more trouble than they're worth at this point. But later on, when I have my hand bat and everything set up, I might want to grab it just because it might come in useful for like the Ancient Guardian or something. So I found the chess set piece. This one has a bishop, a knight, and a rook. I've already found the suspicious marble for the bishop, which means I just need to find the rook and the knight. But I'm going to be coming back here multiple times through this run, so I'm going to set my alchemy engine up here, get my hand bat and my football helmet set up, and go ahead and start looking for the other two headpieces. An earthquake. I know that a red and a blue gem have a chance of falling and not breaking upon impact, so anytime an earthquake happens, I'm going to be looking around a bit to see if I can't find any of those gems.
Bounce it, bounce it, ooh, bounce it, bounce it, ooh. Every time I bounce, I feel I touch the sky.
Try to not pay attention to that. That was just one of my follower notifications as I was streaming this live. Beefalo! Beefalo are really good to find because I'm going to need to ride them in order to pick up the suspicious marble and bring them back to their respective set piece. That being said, beefalo are also a really good food source. However, this only had 2, which was really sad. That is the minimum amount you can have in order to get the saddle and also have one to ride, because you don't want to shave the one you want to ride, otherwise its obedience goes way down. So in this case, I'm going to have to shave one and kill that one to get 6 wool from him in order to get the 4 that I need to make the saddle, and then not shave the other one so that I can ride him later on in order to get all the suspicious marble pieces. You'll also notice I found a totally normal tree, which means I get 3 living logs. I need at least 5 living logs, and 2 totally normal trees will put me at 6, so I'm not going to check it off the list just yet. Any more than 2 is alright by me, as the more living logs I have, the more dark swords I can make, and the more dark swords I have, the better it is. That being said, this forest probably has more totally normal trees lying around, so later on I'll come back here and see if I can't find any. I'm going to need a lot of nightmare fuel this run, which means being insane is a good idea, as it'll spawn more nightmare creatures for me to kill, and that gives me more nightmare fuel. Green caps, if uncooked, reduce sanity by a lot and also increase hunger, so as Wolfgang, I might as well be eating them as I find them along the road. Now, if you're wondering, the reason I waited until now to lower my sanity down drastically is because I have a helmet and a handbat, which lets me dispatch of nightmare creatures a lot faster, and if I make any mistakes, the health penalty for getting hit isn't that severe. Alright, I found the Dragonfly Desert, which means lots of cactus and tumbleweeds, so I'm going to go ahead and run in here to look for any suspicious marble head pieces, and also to map out the cactus locations themselves for when I want to gather them for the end of the run. Also, tumbleweeds give good amount of twigs and grass, so I'll be grabbing some of those while I'm here. The wormhole from the Dragonfly Desert led me straight into the graveyard, which is really good. This means I'll be able to get all of my necessary blue and red gems remaining. I believe I only need 1 blue gem, and I need a total of 3 red gems, so I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get it from here. Alright, sweet deal. I found a bunnyman village. These are really good because bunnymen drop meat and carrots in addition to having lots of carrots in the houses and in the middle of their little village. To begin with, the only issue right now is that I'm insane, so killing them wouldn't be very worth it because they're beardlings at this point, so I need to up my sanity above its halfway point in order to get them to turn back into bunnymen so that when I kill them, they'll drop carrots and meat. So I'm going to go ahead and look around for any mushrooms that I can grab to cook to get my sanity back. And then right off the bat, I find the blue mush forest. This is really good because when I'm going to explore the ruins, I'm going to want to stock up on a ton of blue caps for my hunger and for my health regeneration. But in the meantime, while I'm close to the bunnymen, I can dig some of these up and cook them in order to get some of my sanity back. So here I find another bishop head, which is kind of unlucky because I need to find the rook and knight head. However, because this one is closer than the previous bishop head I found, I'm going to go ahead and mark it so that I can go ahead and grab this one instead of the other one. That being said, this also tells me that the likelihood of there being another chess set piece in the world is rather high, because the amount of set pieces there are in the world, or the amount of marble statues, there will be an equal amount of suspicious marble heads that match them. So here's where the run really switches over from being average to extraordinarily lucky. At the beginning I was talking about RNG, and this is the primary force of RNG that made this run possible in this amount of time. You see, I find the walking cane boon, which has multiple advantages. Number one, I can now walk faster, obviously, which saves time. And number two, now when I go down to the ruins, I won't have to go back to the walrus camp to get a walrus tusk, or rather to run the chance of getting a walrus tusk, make the cane, and then head back to the pseudoscience machine to make my lazy explorer. And instead, I can just make the lazy explorer when I find the pseudoscience machine to begin with, which saves a ton of time. And here I find another chess set piece, which means that there are at least 2 of each of the suspicious marbles, 2 knights, 2 rooks, and 2 bishops. I've already found 2 bishops, which means my chances of finding a rook or a knight goes up significantly. It's obviously that way since the spawn in the world, but this just lets me know and kind of encourages me to keep looking. If the rest of the marble pieces end up being closer to this one, I'll probably swap bases over to this set piece and forget about the one in the deciduous. I really couldn't believe it at this point. I found a 3rd bishop head, which is absolutely ridiculous. I found 3 bishops and not a single knight or rook. This isn't completely wasted though, since it's so close to the one in the swamp. So at this point, since I only know where bishop heads are, I'm probably going to end up using the swamp set piece instead of the deciduous, because this one's just so close to it. And then another blessing from the RNG gods, I find my first knight headpiece, which is also extremely close to the bishop headpiece and the chess set piece itself. So at this point, I know for a fact I'm going to be using the set piece in the swamp as opposed to the one in the deciduous, and this also means that the only suspicious marble piece I have left to find is the rook. And finally, the cherry on top, I find the rook suspicious marble piece, which is the final one I need. And not only that, but they're all three in the swamp biome, and the set piece itself is in the swamp biome. So when I found this, I was pretty stoked. And at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and locate the beefalo, which I already know where they are, but to get the beefalo wool I need to go ahead and create the saddle, and then go ahead and pick these up and deliver them. I'll want to come back to this green mushroom circle when I am ready to fight the Fuelweaver. It's just a bunch of free sanity, so I'm going to be sure to dig these up when the time comes. So the reason I'm up here to begin with and not going straight to the beefalo is because I want to find a couple more totally normal trees to finish out the amount of living logs I need. I should have gone straight to where the last totally normal tree was I found, but I thought might some be up here as well. And on top of that, I thought there might be a sinkhole up here to kind of help me map out where the runes are. So here I realized I made a mistake. I left Chester behind. Normally it wouldn't be that big of a deal and I wouldn't go back for him, but he had my gems inside of him, so I really desperately need those, so I have to go back to pick him up. This is a mistake, and I waste more time than I would have liked to having to do this. So here I am back at the beefalo. As I said before, I only found 2, which means I'm going to need to shave this one and kill it without messing with the other one, so that I can get enough wool to make the saddle without having to shave the one that I need to ride, because shaving a beefalo reduces its obedience by a ton. So that's what I'm taking care of right now. Alright, so this fulfills my totally normal tree quota. All I need is 6, and this will put me at 6. If there's any more I find in the nearby area, I'll go ahead and grab them just to make some extra dark swords, but they're not necessary. So as far as domesticating beefalo go, grass is the worst thing from my understanding that you want to use because it's about half as effective at domestication as twigs and berries. So when available, I'll usually feed my beefalo twigs and berries as opposed to grass because grass obviously takes just as long to collect as twigs or berries, but it only gives you half the amount of food for the beefalo. So that's why I'm feeding him my berries and twigs here. And then also the longer you ride your beefalo, the longer you'll be able to stay on him. So right at the beginning, he's going to be knocking me off almost instantly, and I just have to live with that. Unlike Joe Schmo's Cool Stuff's Beefalo, this Beefalo was not a good Beefalo. He almost got me killed on multiple occasions, so I take only pleasure in murdering him. So now I'm getting rabbits for my prestidigitator, and then I'm going to be heading back over to my deciduous base, moving everything back from there over to my swamp base, and then prepping to go into looking for the runes. Okay, so now I'm on the search for the ruins. I've uncovered a lot of sinkholes, so I should pretty easily be able to find it. But I also still need to find the red mush biome so that I can go ahead and mine the stalagmites to get the 8 fossils I need to create the ancient Fuelweaver. So this isn't the red mush biome, it is a red mush area, so it might have some stalagmites in it, but generally it's not going to be enough for me to get my 8 fossils unless I get lucky from the stalagmite drops. So I have located the runes at this point, which is very good. I have my 8 fossils, and I just need to find my yellow gems, my orange gems, and enough thulecite to make myself some crowns, my magiluminescence, my star collar, and my lazy explorer. Once I find that and craft it all. I will also be running along the edges of the ruins in an attempt to locate the Atrium, because I will have the Lazy Explorer in order to telepoof over. If I don't find it, that's super unlucky, and I will have to resort to looking for the Tentapillars. Okay, so that's 2 orange gems, which means I have enough orange gems to make the Lazy Explorer, and all I need now is an extra 2 yellow gems in order to make my Magiluminescence and my Star Color Staff. Okay, so I've made all of the ancient pseudoscience machine tier equipment I need. I've made all of the shadow manipulator tier gear I need. So now it's just a matter of finding the Atrium and finding and killing the ancient guardian. And then I need to head back topside and get the shadow Atrium itself. I'm going to be searching along the edges of the runes to find the Atrium. If that doesn't work out, I'm going to have to go ahead and go on a search for tentapillars. So this is kind of a mistake by me. My dark sword ran out and I was one nightmare fuel off of making another one, which means I have to go search through the maze and find a chest that has some nightmare fuel in it in order to finish killing the Ancient Guardian. Lucky me, I found some, so now I can make my sword and finish killing this big bozo. Okay, so now that I have the ancient key, everything is set except for killing the shadow chest pieces to get the shadow atrium and then finding the atrium itself. Once I have both those things on lock, I will be collecting some cactus and heading to the arena to do the final battle. So at this point, I realized that I was unsuccessful in my search for the Atrium along the edge of the ruins, which means I have to switch gears mentally to go ahead and start looking for the Tentapillars. It's kind of disappointing since I wasted so much time looking on the edges for the Atrium, but sometimes that happens, and now we just gotta hope for the best. Alright, so I get it on my second tentapillar, which is very lucky indeed. I'm happy with that. Didn't waste too much time looking for it. The event for the Shadow Atrium is happening on the 21st, or the night of the 21st, which means I need to get topside stat and get prepped for that. Alright, so it's crunch time, boys. I'm heading up to the Dragonfly Desert to grab some cactus flesh so that when I defeat the Shadow Chest pieces, I can go straight to the Ancient Fuelweaver without having to waste any time gathering anything on the way. So here I see a Mandrake, and I figure I can just make a Mandrake soup real quick for HP regen and hunger regen. I also thought that Mandrake soups regen sanity to 100 as well. I was incorrect about that, and I learned that the hard way, as you will see when I eat it at the fight itself. So as you can see, I'm not too concerned about using up a couple uses of the Lazy Explorer if it saves a bit of time. I won't need 100% of it for the fight itself, so I'm okay with using it to save time. Alright, ladies and gents, I have the Shadow Atrium, which means I have literally everything I need for the fight. It's just a matter of inventory management now and making my way to the Atrium itself and starting the battle. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching my video, whether you skipped the fights or watched all the way through. Either way, I appreciate it. As I said earlier, I got a lot of good RNG this run, but kind of botched the final fight. That being said, I think it will be hard for me to beat this time. So going forward, I plan to release an Ancient Fuelweaver guide for Wolfgang in the future, and after that, I'm going to be taking a stab at beating the record for Toadstool. So, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, you should totes subscribe. In addition, if you have any advice on how I should switch up commentary or editing, or just have general feedback or a question you want answered, I love reading and responding to comments, so please, please, please let me know what's on your mind. Thank you guys again, and I will see you in the next video.